We are live. Hey, Style Crew, welcome in for another episode of Style and Conversation. This episode is extremely personal and vulnerable for myself and our guest, Asia Drew. She is a dear friend of mine as well as a fellow church partner at the Faith Center here in Tucker, Georgia. And I invited her because we are both similarly in a season of surrender. And I just strongly admire her wisdom as a woman of God, her faith, her strength. And I thought, who better a person to speak with on this topic than her? So I
Man.
want to welcome you to the podcast, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a very new experience for me.
Normally, I introduce our guests with their bio, so I want to just give you the opportunity to share a little bit about yourself with the listeners.
Okay. My name is Asia. I'm originally from New York. I relocated to Georgia in 2020. I am a mom of two boys. One has two legs, the other has four. And I love them both very dearly. Um, I love God. I would say definitely the last 4 years of my life have been transformative in a major way.
Mhm.
But I grew up in church, and I really appreciate my mom for giving me that foundation. Because now I know him for myself, but the only way I was able to do that was because I had a foundation to come back to and to build on. So that's it for the most part, but really like love getting to know new people. I have a heart of service, so anything that I can do to help, I will gladly do. And yeah, just continuing to get to know God and who He's called me to be.
I love it, and everything that you said is so true.
Yeah.
So, I want to get us started on this topic, which is season of surrender. So, how
Mm-hmm.
this came to me, like I said at the beginning, is that I am personally in a season of surrender, and I arrived at this point after I would say like several months of trying to do some things on my own personally and just accepting that me doing it on my own wasn't yielding the results that I would like to have. And so it
Mm-hmm.
was time. And I also am someone who manages anxiety.
Same.
So yeah, we both manage it. And so being in a situation where I'm trying to control something to get the results that I want, it only increases that anxiety.
Yeah.
So for me, being a person of faith, I made the decision to take a step back and surrender it to God. And now I have no idea which outcome it
Mm-hmm.
will be in several situations in my life. So I want to start it out by asking you, Asia, what does surrender mean? What does that look like for you?
Oof. What it means and what it looks like for me.
Mm-hmm.
So surrender for me is twofold.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we spoke about this recently.
Mm-hmm.
Having the courage to release it and the
Mm-hmm.
discipline to trust the process after you release it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times it's easy to let the thing go, especially when
Mm-hmm.
you're at a point of exhaustion, extreme fatigue. It's like, God, I will gladly give you this thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, okay, so after you release it and you're maneuvering through your reality, do you
Mm-hmm.
trust him enough to follow through?
Mm-hmm.
Like when it doesn't look the way that you want it to look, when the timing isn't what you think it should be, will you continue to trust him?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so for me, that's really what surrender is. Just that ultimate acceptance of
Mm-hmm.
God, I know that you love me. I know that you want the best for me. And I know that you know so much more than I know.
Mm-hmm.
So with all of that considered, I'm going to go ahead and give you every single part of me. Um, for me, that looks like just a daily dedication, like that daily conversation. Because a lot of the times, especially say if you stepped out of the church and then you came back, you have a
Mm,
moment that's really beautiful. And you say, Lord, I'm coming back to you. I surrender everything to you. Um, but then we get into the week and we're not kind of doing that daily surrender. So for
yeah.
me, it's a daily thing. Like I have to follow through with that daily and also evaluate myself. Like, which can be really hard sometimes. Like, what am I holding on to the tightest? Because that's
Hmm.
most likely what I don't trust God with. I know for a long time I would surrender everything to God but my dating. Like,
Oh,
yes. I'm like, Lord, I will give you
I'm
everything,
in that boat
but
now.
ma'am, I'm like, but I can do this dating thing right. Like, I know I'll be good. And I realized, like, oh, girl, you don't trust him. um you don't trust him that the way that you say that you trust him when it comes to that. So yeah, just a daily process and every day could look different. And now I've gotten comfortable with that discomfort. Like I know some days it'll be really easy, other days it may be a bit more of a challenge. I may be doing the ugly cry, but either way, like I'm still giving it to him regardless.
So I
I'm
can
sorry, that was a lot, Jess.
no, we're no. I wanted you to be honest, and you don't need to apologize at all. So
Okay.
for me, I think what it looks like now is I am naturally someone that is whatever type of relationship I'm in with you, whether it's business, interpersonal, professional, like I'm going to try. I'm going to
Mhm.
take a step back and think, okay, how can I be better in this moment? Like how can I show up better? How can I communicate better? What am I saying or doing that's coming off that's giving you this impression of me or my motives? What is it that I can do to do things differently? So for me, naturally, I exhaust all of that first. And
Mhm.
then when I realize, okay, I've really given it my all, and I'm including God along the way. I'm like, okay, Holy Spirit, help me, give me wisdom in this moment. Help me if I'm upset, help me manage my anger. Help me be articulate in this challenging time. Help us find a resolution. Once I've done that and I know that I've done exhausted all my resources and I know that, God is on my side doing his thing, that's when I get to the point where I'm just like, okay, there's nothing left for me to do here. I really got to give this to you
Mhm.
because I'm exhausting myself. I'm exhausting resources. I'm making myself anxious. And also, I think in my experience, as of late in these situations,
Mhm.
when you're just trying and trying and trying and it's not working and you're not getting the results that you desire from the other party, I find you're exhausting that person as well.
Oh yeah. Everybody's great.
So yeah,
Everybody.
you're exhausting that person as well. So it's best to just take a step back and give it to God.
Mhm.
What it has looked like for me in this season is giving it to him. It also looks like grief,
Mm.
which shows up differently each day. So, to be very transparent, my surrender, I recently had to surrender a very my long term dating relationship.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, like some days are good. Of course, I still think about him, miss him. And then
Mhm.
some days, like the grief is just overwhelming.
Yeah.
Um, because whenever you there's a favorite quote of mine from one of my favorite movies, and yeah, hope floats. And the
Mm,
quote is like,
I like that.
yeah, it's a good movie if you've never seen it. It's like beginnings are usually scary,
Mm-hmm.
endings are usually sad, but it's the middle that counts the most.
Mm-hmm.
So endings are, with that being said, they're sad. And usually when you come to the end of something, it's not because you necessarily want it to, depending on the situation. Like
Yeah.
you're buying a new handbag, like you want it to get to that point, right? But if you're at like the end of a relationship, the end of a job, end of a contract, it's not necessarily that you wanted to get to that point, but
Mm-hmm.
you got to that point because you maybe had to surrender and take a step back.
Yeah.
So I'm at that space. And so, yeah, it looks like grief. It looks like
Mm-hmm.
still praising God, even in this uncertain, sad, transitional season.
Amen.
It looks like leaning on girlfriends, family, like pray for me.
Yeah.
Praying hard for myself. And at the end of it, at the end of a lot of my prayers, if I'm having a moment where I'm sad or anxious, something that I read, it was like not a sermon, but it was like a summary or something that I get Rick Warren's emails from Saddleback Church. And he
Mm-hmm.
talked about being in a season where you have to trust God. And so at the end of it, at the end of my prayer, I say, I trust you. And the reason I do that is because he said the more you say it, the more you end up believing that and you put
Yeah.
it in practice. So that is that's what it looks like for me in
Mm-hmm.
this season.
Mm-hmm. I feel that. I think there's a lot of development that happens when you start to surrender. Like you'll
Mm-hmm.
notice, um, of course, your trust in God develops, and your faith starts to develop and really grow. Like during that season, everything. I feel like people that He wants you to be in community with, like those relationships, also grow because a lot of the times you need your friends, your family, your community to support you. It's like I'm surrendering to God, but I need you to kind of hold me up while
Mm-hmm.
while I am
Yes.
surrendering this. You know what I mean? So it's like all the good things start to grow, but the surrendering part is usually very, very uncomfortable. But I think I've just started to get really familiar with the discomfort because I know like the walk is going to have many moments where I'm uncomfortable. But that's the part about just knowing that God has me. Like regardless of how I'm feeling or what I'm maneuvering through, like God has me. So I feel that.
I like what you said about you're getting more comfortable with the discomfort. I think that's because you're growing in your faith.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a season in my life like 7, 8 years ago where I was in a transitional period when I was living in New Orleans and I had to figure out, navigate some new things.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to myself, I need to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yep.
And so I think from there, that helped me, like in that season, having that growth where I had to get really uncomfortable. I'm talking about like exploring a new career, changing places of residence, like having two roommates at the time. I was like, this is
All the
not
things.
like all the things, like, this is not ideal, but I'm better now for it because I went through that and I didn't try to fight and like go against the wave. I just
Mm-hmm.
swam with it and now you're better. So, like, what do you think helped you become more comfortable with the discomfort in those moments?
Baby, I think that, like you just said, like, do you want to fight the wave or do you want to ride it out?
Mm-hmm.
Because either way, that test is coming, right? That trial is coming. That discomfort is going to come. So
Mm-hmm.
either you can lean into it or you can try to resist it and literally create more of an issue, right? You're going to be more exhausted trying to fight the wave as opposed to just going with it.
Yeah.
So no, I think getting to a point several times where I'm like, okay, I haven't surrendered this. I knew that I should have, and I've made it a mess, and I'm exhausted. And it's
Hmm.
like I've been trying to control these factors or manufacture peace, manufacture comfort. And God is like, that's already available to you. Like it's in me. So you need
Mm.
to be looking for me, right? Surrendering the things to me. And then from there, I'll supply all your needs, right? I'll give you every single thing that you need. But it's really like when you try to create that on your own, I'm sure, and I feel like it's similar to with my parenting with Chase. It's like, I have this for you. And I
Hmm.
know that you may want to do some things on your own, but this thing you need mom for, right? So let me take care of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Ah.
thinking, oh man, when I tell you parenting has helped me really put into perspective the way that I think God may view some of these things, but I really do feel like he's our heavenly father and he's like, listen, you absolutely have everything that you need in me. So why wouldn't you surrender it to me? Like,
Right.
um, so yeah, that has been a thing, just getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, knowing
Hmm.
that it's gonna come regardless, and knowing that God has me. Like I can reference my own testimony and say
Hmm.
time after time after time, either I made it a mess and God came and cleaned it up, or
Hmm.
I was able to start surrendering to him in the beginning and he carried me through.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Whew, you just said a mouthful with like,
Yeah.
okay, that you can do this, but mom is here. I can help you.
Hmm.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, I know you mentioned like at the top of our conversation how you chosen to start surrendering your dating to God. So how did you arrive at that point where you knew that that was the next step and the thing you needed to do?
Um, I'll say definitely. Well, number one, number one, having situations not work out right the way
Hmm.
that I desired them to.
Yeah.
Um, and then really getting deeper into my word, like
Hmm.
God has called me to surrender, right? And really trust him with every single part of my life. So I can't keep on trying to hold on to this thing. And
Hmm.
history has already shown me that I'm not doing it any good holding on to it, right? So
Yeah.
I can't be out here with a double mind. I can't be out here saying, God, like, fill me up, use me as a vessel, but I'm going to hold on to these few things. Like, no.
Mm.
You know what? No.
Yeah, that's
Give him
valid.
everything, right?
That's
And
valid.
including your dating. And there will be moments, and I feel like I've seen this, um, where you surrender everything and it doesn't look the way that you want it to look. And you start to question,
Hmm.
like, should I have, or should I maybe do what I used to do? Should I go back to whatever you were doing before? And it's like, no, continue to be the person that God has called you to be. Like, continue to surrender to Him and just trust in Him. Um, and I would say that has been one of the most uncomfortable yet peaceful
Hmm.
things. Like the peace that has come from that
Yeah.
has been really hard to describe. So that's been a big thing.
So, what would you say to someone who is struggling with that, where they're like, "All right, I surrendered it." Because
Now what?
okay, I'm gonna ask you this because I have a a response to this.
Uh-huh.
But what would you say if someone who's like, "I surrendered it, and I'm still not getting the results I want, or it's still not going in my favor, or like whatever they feel like they should be receiving in the moment?" What would you say to them?
Um I would say you can't be committed to God's way and your way, because that's usually what will start to, I feel like, taint
Mm-hmm.
the process. Is we have this idea in our
Yeah.
mind of what it's supposed to look like. So, right after we surrender, after we submit, because that idea is still in our mind or in our heart, or that dream, that desire is
Mm-hmm.
still in our heart, we say, this isn't happening the way it
Yeah.
should. And it's like, what do you mean the way that it should? Like, do you mean the way that you think that it
Mm-hmm.
should be happening, or the way that God has written it? Right. So, and I've had this feeling
Mm-hmm.
before, and it was a realization for me. Like, God said my steps are ordered. I know that my steps are ordered. I don't know in what order. So I don't know if this is supposed to be the period of time, right, where he's developing something in me where I am supposed to be single, right? But
Yeah.
I think realizing that if I say that I am committed to God's way, then that has to be a wholehearted thing. And I have to start to really let go of what it's supposed to be like in my mind and commit to him fully. And I know that can be a challenging thing, because some people say, well, am I not supposed to have a plan for my life, right? Am I not supposed to have a vision for my life? Yes, absolutely. I think like God cares about our cares and the
Mm-hmm.
desires of our heart, but we have to understand like who the ultimate author is, and it's him.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, yes, have an idea, have dreams, have a vision, of course, but understand the same way that when you were young and your friends asked you to do something, it's like, yeah, I want to do it, but I got to check with my dad. I got to check with.
Mm. I like
So,
that.
heavy on the, my Heavenly Father has the final say so. So
I
yeah, I don't know what that say so is gonna look like. But I have to understand like he has to have the final say in all of these things.
I really like that analogy because I stayed having to check with Larry and Jonetta before I could say yes to
Listen,
anything.
listen.
So
Childlike faith. Okay, like let's get
yes.
back to asking our Heavenly Father like what He thinks about these things, and really praying, staying in prayer, right? But also waiting for the confirmation, or
Mm-hmm.
like, God, reveal it to me, and He will. But a lot of the times we pray for revelation, or we pray for
Mm-hmm.
confirmation. We get it every single day, and
Mm-hmm.
because we know that it's not going to be comfortable for us, we're like, okay, no, I don't see that whole time, every single day, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you need to like take a look inside, because it's probably not that it's not being revealed. It's just that you don't have the discipline to follow through with what's being revealed.
Yeah, it's not what you wanted the answer to be. So you're like, I'm gonna just
Right.
act like I don't see that and go back
Mm-hmm.
on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And you're
so
gonna be in shambles. Like,
yeah,
now you in distress every
girl,
single time.
whole
So.
distress.
Mm-hmm.
So how I would respond to that question if someone is if they surrendered and they feel like I'm not seeing what I thought I'd see, I'm not getting what I wanted, I would say, excuse me, what was your posture when you surrendered? Was your posture like, fine,
Mm-hmm.
y'all out of the Chick-fil-A sauce, I'll take the Polynesian? Or was
Mm-hmm.
it like, okay, bet, y'all are out of it, I'm disappointed, but I'll rock with what you got? Like,
Mm-hmm.
was it a posture of gratitude rooted in faith? Like, not gratitude that, and let me back up, because I think someone might hear that and think that you need to be gracious for going through a trial. That's not what I mean. What I mean is have it rooted in faith. Like, okay, God, I don't know how this is going to look. I don't know how my rent's going to get paid. I don't know what's going to shake with these job interviews. I don't know what's going to shake with this man or this woman, but I know the desires that you have for me. I know that you, like you said, you care about the things that I care about. And so if you've done all that you've done for the world, for mankind, you haven't forgotten about me. Like a job, that's nothing. A man, that's not rent
And
payment,
this is
that's
what
nothing.
and this is what
So
I'm
you're the
saying.
same
Like,
God today that you've been yesterday.
mm-hmm.
This ain't your first time. So
It's
and
not his
God
first time.
God is not willing to risk his reputation for me. Like he's just not. So was it that? Like that would be my first question. Like, how did you surrender? Was it like, all right, I don't know what this is gonna look like?
Mhm.
And you can be crying, you can be sad, you can be
Mhm.
frustrated, but like at the end of that, okay, God, I trust you. Here it is, I trust you. Or was it like, oh, fine, I done tried it, I'm gonna give it up. Like
Mhm.
it can't be that because I don't really feel like God's gonna do what he's gonna do. He's sovereign, he's gonna do what he's gonna do regardless. But it could also be like he's showing you and he's giving you either what you wanted or better than what you wanted, but because you're in a position of I don't know, like self-pity and like anger, which is
Mhm.
your anger is not wrong, but being in a place of like, well, I don't know. Maybe he's gonna do it or maybe not. Or is it like, no, like I don't know what it looks like, but I know God got me. Even if you
Yeah.
have to take a minute within that surrender and reach out to someone that you trust that is gonna give you biblical, logical advice and be like, yo, I'm
Mhm.
struggling right now. Like, I'm pissed off. I don't know how this is gonna shake out. I feel discouraged. That's cool.
Mhm.
But be committed to not staying there. Like if you need to be there for a day, for a night, cool.
Mhm.
Don't stay there. Like you got to bounce back and go back into okay, but God did it before. So he's not going to like lose his reputation this time.
No.
Not off this. So
Mm-mm.
I would say that. I would question them like how are you surrendering number 1? And then number 2, again like he might be giving it to you and you just may not realize it or the promise may yet be it may be yet to be fulfilled but he always reveals himself and do
Mm.
when he feel when the time is right and when he feels like you're ready to receive that. So that's how I would respond to that if someone were in a position where they were like I've surrendered and I'm just not seeing it.
I love that, especially when it comes to heart posture.
Mm-hmm.
What happened there? Especially when it comes to heart posture, like if you're doing something with your arms folded and you're pouting, that's a lot different
Mm-hmm.
than, even in my tears, even in my distress, even in my exhaustion. I surrender this to you, Lord. And I thank you for even creating a space for me to bring this to you. That's the thing,
Mm-hmm.
see, like the creator of the heavens and the earth knows my name, and he's created a space for me to come to him and bring
Mm-hmm.
these things to him, good, bad, or indifferent, right? That's a
All of it.
privilege. Like that's an honor. He is holy. Like, cause we don't deserve the space, we don't deserve the option, but yet and still we have it.
Yeah.
So I think that's the important part. So I love that you're saying like when you surrendered, how did you surrender? Because that makes a huge difference. Like the gratitude has to be not for the trial necessarily, even though trials can bring out some amazing things, but
Mm-hmm.
have gratitude for who God is and his nature and the opportunity to come to him with these things.
Hmm.
Ma'am. Ma'am.
All that, all that,
Yeah, all of that.
all that. Okay. So the next question, if we haven't touched on it already, can
Hmm.
you think of a time that you're comfortable sharing where you needed to surrender and how you came to that conclusion of like, okay, this is not something I need to be tackling on my own.
Mm. Something, man, I would say one of the first things that comes to mind is being pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Like Chase is on the way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Understanding that I am very young,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not in any position, in any capacity, and I don't even feel qualified in the moment to
Mm-hmm.
be a mom. Um, but saying I'm gonna move forward. I'm gonna trust you. That was like a major turning point in my life of coming back to Christ. When I was pregnant, because I'm completely humbled. It's
Mm-hmm.
like because that is the situation where I say, okay, I wasn't expecting this, right? And I know that only you can help me, God. Like, only you can give me the strength. And it is only by your power that I'll even be able to start this walk and this journey into motherhood. Um, and that was an easy one. I would say after that, Chase then being here was being able to surrender him and saying, God, I know
Mhm.
that my child is a blessing and I know that he's from my womb, but ultimately he's your child.
Mhm.
And I have to be able to come to you when it comes to parenting him. I have to continue to seek your counsel when it comes to giving him counsel. And I think that was not a challenging one, but something that I had to work through because I think when you're a parent, a lot of the times it's like, I'm the parent, I'm the boss, right? Like I set the rules, I set the tone. And it's like, that's still God's job. And you need to be accountable for the way that you steward his heart. You're not just raising a human or taking care of a baby. You're not just raising a human or taking care of a baby,
Mhm.
but he's got a child and you need to take care of him accordingly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a huge moment of surrender.
I'm glad you talked about um, motherhood and you introduced that moment because I always wonder, like, I hear parents now say, the first time I heard it was Michelle Obama. She said, when you have a child, it's like your heart walking outside your body,
My
and you
lord.
just have to trust that they're going to be safe and loved and okay. And
Hmm.
with me, I'm a mother to Coco, okay? And anybody who says otherwise, I'm gonna show you these vet bills.
Period.
But so even that, like having to, when she's had surgery, I have to surrender and trust
Hmm.
that I've made the right decision, applied wisdom into the physician that I selected. But I, wonder when that time comes and I'm able to have human children,
Hmm.
and how you get to that point as a parent where you're not, worried all the time, and you have peace when they're not within your view, and just if they're not in your company. So that's really helpful
Oh
with you
yeah.
saying that. And it makes me think about the fact that surrender applies to more areas than I was even thinking about with this conversation.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a huge thing. It's like surrender your children. Like when you hear about baby dedications, right, there's a reason why you need to do that, like to acknowledge, like, God, I know that this is a gift from you, but ultimately this life, this soul, this heart is yours. So yeah, and honestly, I think that has helped a lot with my anxiety. When it comes to, oh my gosh, have I said the right thing? Have I done the right thing? Knowing that no, I've surrendered this to God, and He's gonna continue to work through me. Like He's gonna continue to show me. Whether it's through scripture or community or a sermon at church, like he's going to continue to kind of help me along the way.
Yeah, I like that. I
Yeah.
really like that you said that. And again, dealing with anxiety, I think when I'm trying to control things on my own, it worsens it for me.
Mhm.
So yeah, I can relate to that.
Girl, I think managing anxiety as a believer has been one of the most like multi-layered experiences.
Hmm.
Because if you were raised in a church, well, I think number one, like coming from a black household, right? If you were born in a certain time, it's like anxiety who?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
like, and then I think if you were starting to do work in therapy and saying, okay, I have this thing. It's not a death sentence, but I do need to keep my eye on it. I need to manage it. I think sometimes you would hear things, said like, you can't come into agreement with that type of stuff, or, you should just kind of ignore something like that, or just pray your way through it. And it's like, I think that God understands that we do have emotions, and you see it throughout the Bible where He's encouraging us because He knows that fear is present, and He's saying, "Hey, don't be afraid. I'm with you. You know, be strong and of good courage." So I feel like He knows that those emotions come up, and the
Yeah.
two things can exist. Like I can love God and have faith in Him and trust Him, but still have emotions, right? That come up, and it's just my job to acknowledge that the emotion exists, work through it, and you can work through that in multiple ways. It can be a faith-based process, but it's like, no, I am a believer and I have anxiety. And the
Yeah.
two things can be true.
I agree.
Yeah.
Everything you said, I agree with everything you said. And again, like it's God gives us these emotions for a reason. And you're not wrong for having the emotion or dealing with it or managing it. But the more important thing is like don't stay there and do
Period.
what you need to
Yeah.
do to work through it. So like for me, for my personal self, like do I need to take my medicine every day? No. Do I
Mhm.
need to take it like again, I'm in the season where I'm grieving and my anxiety may be a little higher than normal. So on those days, I accept, okay, I need a little help today. And
Mhm.
I take my medicine and keep it pushing. Make sure I say my prayers
Mhm.
and take my medicine. But I also am particular around how I speak about it. So I'm
Yeah.
speaking like the right things for myself. So I'll say like, I'm someone who manages anxiety, or I oftentimes feel anxiety, things of that nature, just to again make sure I'm speaking the right things over myself, because I'm very
Mhm.
big on speaking what you speak over your life is what will be.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
that's something that I like to practice. So but I agree with everything that you said. Like, and I'm grateful to be planted in a church where those conversations are happening,
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
intention, especially like with the new building, is to have resources for mental health.
Mhm.
Because God and mental health, God cares about your mental health. So the
Yeah.
two can coexist.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I'm grateful that we're getting to a point where there's more education, where there's more understanding, all those things.
Mhm. I love that.
I want to pause for a moment and shout out our sponsor for the first season of Style and Conversation. So, our sponsor is Bite Authority. And I'm holding in my hand this multi collagen protein. This is the collagen protein that I have been consuming for 2, 3 years now. And I absolutely love it. I rave about it. You all have seen me speak about it on my social media,
Mhm.
and that is why I was really excited to partner with Bite Authority for our first season. This is the tropical punch flavor. I love the
Come
strawberry.
on, Papa. Come
I love the mango. I tried the pina colada. I like that as well. And they also have collagen that is flavorless. So if you want to put it in your coffee, add it to your smoothies,
on.
whatever you want to do, just a way to get this. It's amazing. I have noticed an extreme difference in my hair, skin, and nails since I've
Mhm.
been consuming this. So I highly recommend their products. And just to tell you all a little bit more about Vita Authority, at Vita Authority, we believe everyone should be able to take their health into their own hands, and we envision a future where health and nutrition products are found on counters in every single household. We pride ourselves on being an absolute authority when it comes to health and wellness supplements, and set the standard on providing high quality, science based, clean, tested, and proven products for every person from every walk of life. Bite Authority can now be found at GNC retail stores as well as other retailers nationwide, and has gone international in Canada, the Dominican Republic, Panama, the Caribbean, and Africa. For more information about Bite Authority and their commitment to promoting women's health, wellness, and active lifestyles, please visit www.vitaauthority.com, and that is spelled VITAUTHORITY. And listeners of the Style and Conversation podcast have a code for 15% off their entire collection of products. That code is Styled by Jess, STYLED BYJESS. So use that code, run to the website. I highly, highly recommend it.
Run, don't walk.
No, run, run. They have extremely great products. I love this. I love their Melt PM. I can't recommend Vita Authority enough. I'm just grateful that I found them because I had been on the search for a good collagen
Mm-hmm.
for a while. So, and I haven't turned back. So that says a lot.
I love that. The people need collagen.
You do. You got to have your collagen. You got to have your collagen. So one other thing I wanted to ask you, what advice would you offer someone who is currently in a situation where they might realize that they need to surrender, but they're struggling with actually surrendering the thing to God?
Struggling with the release.
Yes, the release. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Um, I would really want them to examine like the quality of their life. It's like, do you have peace right now? Because I promise you, it's on the other side of your surrender. Like, are you able to rest well at night? Because I promise you, good sleep is on the other side of your surrender. Like, your heart's desires really are on the other side of that release. Um, so I don't think for me it would be about convincing necessarily, but
Mhm.
more so an encouragement for them to evaluate the quality of life that they're living. And it's like, if you look around and you say, oh no, I could have a better life, or this
Mhm.
isn't the life that God has called me to have, go ahead and release that thing, please. And he's waiting for you, like open arms, like go ahead and give that to me and watch me work. Like, man, there's so much that I have seen happen in my life after I started to get comfortable with releasing it and giving the things to God. So I think that's a really beautiful thing that can happen, but it's like you can't watch him work with the thing if you're still holding on to it. Like,
Mhm.
and you're squeezing the life out of it and he's waiting for you to release it. So that's really it. Like, look around, take a look around, and if it's not what you want it to look like, then do something different and give it to God.
I think that's good advice. I can relate to that. So, one example, like one testimony, I have a moment where I knew I needed to surrender. So, I had just started this position. This is when I was in New Orleans, and I thought it was my dream job, and it was my dream job. Just not. It ended up not being the dream environment. And day one, I came in, girl, like Cinderella, like completely altruistic moment, like, mindset thinking like I'm here to do something for my people. We're all black, we're gonna help each other. And my colleague, who is still one of my good friends to this day, tapped me, we were just getting familiarized with each other. And she was like, yo, watch out because this person who was the executive director over the organization, it was a small staff. She said, she tends to do XYZ.
Mm,
And I'm thinking, I just I just started this new position. I just let go
yeah.
a solid job to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was about to be vested to be
Mm,
here. What did I just do?
yeah, yeah.
And so, and I left that position because there wasn't going to be any upward movement within the
Mm-hmm.
organization. So I received that information, but I still went into it like, okay, well, completely optimistic. Let's see, right? Because I mean, what other choice do I have? And girl, when I tell you not long, like crazy stuff, like I mean, ridiculous things started happening.
Mm,
Like
mm-mm.
I'm talking about, that was when I started turning my phone on do not disturb because I would get emails at like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, back to back. And
Not Z and Z.
girl, D&D had to because
Because y'all don't respect
what?
my time.
Because ma'am, you could schedule this. There's a feature. where you
Mhm.
could schedule this email.
Mhm.
And that's just some of the, like, that's just one example. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it got bad. Like, the entire staff, this woman pushed out the entire staff of
Mhm.
people. And I was like grinding my teeth in my sleep. I was like completely stressed out, like crying every other day, like
Oh my
how am I
goodness.
navigate, like I'm really trying.
Mhm.
And I finally came to the point, like I remember one of my girlfriends, my best girlfriends, telling me, she was like, Jess, you can't fix this.
Yeah.
You cannot fix this. And that had never dawned on me. I was like, no, I gotta try. Like I can do this and I can do that. And my relationship with God, I've always had a relationship with God, but it's strengthened over the last few years.
Mhm.
It wasn't even what it is now. It wasn't even what it is then. But I just knew I had no peace. Like, to relate it back to what you were saying, I had absolutely no
Mhm.
peace. And I knew I had to accept, I didn't know, I had to accept that there was nothing else I could do in this situation. And I had, I had to let it go.
Yeah.
And was I nervous? Yes. Yes, because I am a person that believes in stability and foundation, and that as an adult in a capitalist society, that includes a paycheck.
Mhm.
So I surrendered that. And then, not too long after that, Ida ended up hitting the city. And I was able to move with my boyfriend at the time. And that's how I ended up starting and getting my job within the tech industry. And
Mhm.
so, and I had that happen, and then had this not happen, I wouldn't have been in a position where I can move, because I wasn't I wasn't a remote worker. We were in the office every day. I
Mhm.
was able to move, and looking further down the road, I got planted in good soil at the Faith Center,
Mhm.
and met all of these people that I'm confident will be lifelong friends and
Mhm.
relationships that I value and will hold on to, and just so many other good things. So I just say that to encourage anyone who's listening to this and maybe dealing with, struggling with knowing when it's time to let go, and really struggling, if you're someone who goes back and forth with, could I do more, could I have done more, you will know when you have done all that you can do, and when it's time to pass it to God, and still do your part, in terms of, like, don't at all just become docile and passive and just let life pass you by, but
Mhm.
don't try to control that situation, and know when it's time to let go.
Yeah. I feel that. I feel like, especially when you have a resolution driven personality, it's like
Mm-hmm.
you will drive yourself into a panic attack. Like, you will drive
Yeah.
yourself into the crazy house because you're trying to control and fix, and it's like, okay, how do we resolve this? How do we get to this place? And sometimes you have to realize there is no resolution. Like, the
Yeah.
resolution is relief. Like,
Ooh.
that's about to make me run. That,
I
like,
just got
that's
that in this moment, because I have a
it.
resolution personality.
Yeah.
I'm always like, no, let's come to the table. I'm quick. Like,
Mhm.
I'm a big believer that everyone deserves a conversation.
Yeah.
But with that, on the other side of that, what I'm having to learn and be developed in as an adult is, not everyone's intention is to understand. Some people are
Yeah.
committed to misunderstanding you and the situation, and they have no desire for resolution. Like,
Yeah.
resolution, like, let me take a step back. Resolution, I think it looks like different things for different people. For
Yeah.
me, it looks like, okay, I hear your version, you hear my version, we don't agree, but how can we come together and move forward in harmony, and really leave this thing where it's at? For
Mhm.
some people, A, they not trying to understand, and B, if they do even portray as if they're trying to understand, they may not have the mindset of actually, like, forgiving and moving forward, and like, that may not be what resolution looks like for them.
Yeah.
So I agree with what you said, and I receive that. Like, sometimes the resolution for you is release.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly believe that, because there are some people um that, and it may not be intentional, but there can be manipulation that occurs. They're entering into a conversation subconsciously, just having a desire to win the conversation, like
Yeah.
whatever that win looks like for them. So here you come in with like just a desire to get clarity and just express how you feel, right? Gain understanding, forgive, resolve. And they're coming in to win. So you guys are starting from two very, very different places.
Yeah.
So I love that. I think for the most part, I am willing to have a conversation with almost anyone about certain things. But
Hmm.
I think if there comes a point where I'm able to say, I think that this is no longer a safe space for me,
Hmm.
or that there can be some manipulation that occurs, whether you intend to or not. No, we're not having no conversation.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
I will give
And
it to
I think
God.
that's wisdom too.
Yeah.
That's wisdom and that's surrender, because you're saying, okay, I've analyzed what this situation is and what
Mhm.
the outcome could be, and there's no point in engaging.
Yeah, like you're not gonna have me in crisis. Like I'm not gonna be in crisis. Life is already gonna life, right? And traumatic events can happen just out of the blue.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not entering into a conversation where the person has shown themselves to be a danger to me, a danger to my well-being, just for the sake of saying that I had it. And I used to
Mhm.
absolutely like, oh, we need to have a conversation, right? Closure. This kind of like final airing out of the things. Now I'm heavy on like, no, I'm giving that to God. Like
Yeah,
closure is available to me right now, and I don't need it by way of a conversation with you. No.
I really like that.
Yeah.
And I think to add to that, I've gotten to a point where I've accepted that sometimes you have to heal without getting what you may desire from the other person.
Heal anyway.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, heal anyway. Just go into it and just focus on you. And you know what? A note. So I've been in prayer and thinking about this week. So a note I made, like while I was just praying, actually, like while I was holding up towels, I felt like God was like kicking me with some conviction. I think surrendering pride and ego. Surrendering can mean surrendering your pride and ego and letting go of someone else's actions and the ways that you feel that they did wrong to you, that they wronged you, in
yeah.
order to receive conviction on how you need to change.
Yeah. I believe that. I love
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that it's been for me right now. Another thing is uh so I'm someone that struggles with embarrassment, like fear of embarrassment.
Yeah.
And I'm learning as I get older, one, I'm just gonna have to let that go for
Yeah.
where I know that God is trying to stretch me and grow me. Because if I'm steadily being held back by fear of embarrassment, like how far can I really grow? So
Yeah.
that's the first part of it. The second thing is surrendering to the embarrassment and making sure that I'm fighting publicly. So situations like this, like I don't need to come on here, neither one of us, and share like the ins and outs of, you know, why my relationship ended, what I'm going through professionally. Nor do you need to come on here and share like the ins and outs of, you know, like you shared your testimony about your pregnancy, about like anything, but you shared enough, right? To where you had no fear of embarrassment and you were willing to share your testimony so that God could get the glory. And
Amen.
ultimately, it could help someone else that may be in that season, about to enter that season, or coming out of that. And so that is something else that I am slowly surrendering, like the fear of embarrassment.
Mm. I feel
Because
that.
it's
That I think that's.
embarrassing, like having to
Yeah.
come back and be like, "Well, my relationship ended."
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
I don't. You know.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something. That's having to work through, especially I feel like as an adult, because we think we
Mhm.
have to have the things together. We
Mhm.
start using age and associating that to our successes, our wins, our
Mhm.
L's. And when you live in a society, right, where social media is a big thing and everyone's kind of posting their highlight reels, people are posting weddings and engagements and this and that.
Mhm.
Sometimes if you're going through a situation that is the exact opposite, you say my relationship is actually coming to an end, that can feel like an embarrassing thing. I don't know, I feel like, man, I'm so humbled. I've been humbled by life, so at this point it's what could embarrass me, right?
Mhm.
Not to say that I have to ever put all of my life out on display,
Mhm.
but no, there may be something that I have to discuss or share with someone, whether it's in private or publicly, that God really needs me to share so that, like you said, He can be glorified.
Mhm.
So it's about saving souls.
Yeah,
I can care, like,
that part.
who, like, embarrassment? What? Like,
Yeah,
imagine if Jesus said, I can't get on a cross because,
I'm embarrassed. I know, right?
right? But I absolutely believe that, like, God understands that emotion. And
Mhm.
He's like, I'm going to give you some tools. I'll give you community, right? All of the things to help you work through that. But I have to keep going back to, like, what am I called to do? What has Christ already done for me? So the same way that He overcame all of these other things, He overcame that emotion and that embarrassment, right? So I can just go ahead and release that fear, let that fear go, and share what I feel led to share. So,
Mhm. Amen. I
yeah,
love it. I love it.
I'm
Well, before we close out, I want to ask you. So I do like to ask, well, a couple of questions. The first thing I want to ask you is there anything you want to leave the listeners with on this topic?
oh man, it's really like Nike. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Just
just
surrender.
do it. Yeah, it's like you can watch, and this has been an amazing conversation. But it's like you still have to take action. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you still have to take action. So
Yeah.
just go ahead and do it. Like, just rip the band-aid off and get it done. And the more you do it, I really find that it is easier. More
Yeah.
you do. It's just like going to the gym.
Yep.
More you go to the gym, it's going to get easier. You'll actually be looking for ways to change your routine or add weights, right? But if you're not doing it at all and you're dragging your feet to get there, it's going to be really hard. It's not going to be fun. So I would say just do it.
I agree with you on that wholeheartedly. The more you practice that muscle, the easier
Yeah.
it's gonna get.
Mm-hmm. And
The,
y'all in there working on your glutes, you might as well go ahead and work on your release and your surrender at home.
and have
So
peace.
and have peace and a snatch waist and yeah, do
Yeah.
all of the things. Yes.
All the things. I love it. Okay, so my one other question. So, because this is style and conversation, I always like to ask my guests one style related question.
Okay.
So, you are very stylish, and I
Oh,
always
thank
love
you,
your
Jess.
style. So, I want to ask you, what is your favorite piece in your closet right now? It can be like a makeup piece, it can be like a handbag, shoes, a dress, whatever the case may be.
It's bad. You man, I find that I'm really enjoying sweatpants. And that's
Me
just
too. You're not
that is
alone.
okay. Honestly for me, and I think, work from home, right? I just like to be really comfortable. But yeah, I just like to lounge. A good pair of sweats in very, very like good material, and I'm here for it. Um, yeah, until I start to find like jeans that I really love, I think I'm in a sweats type of season.
Yeah, you're not alone. I
Okay.
have some places I can refer you for good jeans, so I'll send them
Okay.
to you
Okay.
offline.
Yes, please. Yes, please, ma'am.
Yeah. And okay, the other thing I wanted to ask you, can you share with the listeners how to keep up with you? If there's anything that you're working on that you want to share with everyone, and also if you want to touch on the project that you and Chase did together, just to really
Oh.
expand as a point of reference for everyone, and I'll make sure to link that in the episode bio as well.
Yeah, so Chase and I were on the Skin Deep about a year ago. We filmed and it released actually October of last year. And since then, oh, can you hear me?
Yep, I hear you.
Okay. And yeah, it's been life changing. We were able to have a really raw and transparent conversation, which is something that we do kind of on a daily basis at home. And they were just able to capture that. And I think it was really that moment really captured who we are to each other. Excuse me. So it was beautiful. So I think that's it's on YouTube, it's on Instagram. Yeah, you can go ahead and link that, Jess. I am I'm working on a few things, nothing that is announcement ready.
Okay.
But I will say, as I'm growing in Christ, I understand that spaces for believers outside of church like need to exist, whether it's just like spaces for us to gather, whatever the case may be. Like I was in a coffee shop recently, and don't worry, this is not the idea. Well, not now, because who knows what God will do. But I remember I was in a coffee shop, and I was like, man, I would really like it, like maybe to hear some gospel music or some like gospel lo-fi, and have
Mhm.
some different like Christian options to read in here while I drink my coffee. Because it is that thing now where like I want to make sure that I'm connected to him in every single thing that I do,
Mhm.
even something as simple as going to a coffee shop.
Mhm.
So yeah, I've just been working through something. So maybe we'll have an announcement on the horizon. But anything that I do moving forward will have God in it. So I'm very clear about that and like clear on my purpose to glorify him.
Well, I know whatever you do and touch, God will be in it. And because of that, and because of what He put inside of you, it will be a success. And so I can't
Thank
wait
you.
to see all the things that you do. I'm very grateful for having you on as a guest.
Thank you so much for having me.
I would not have had it any other way. I immediately was like, I got to talk to Asia about this. So
Oh my
I think
goodness.
this
Thank
was a
you.
great episode. My prayer is that someone will be blessed from our conversation and that they will get some clarity and some peace from our testimonies and just some of the things that we shared.
Mm-hmm.
And that this will also be a blessing to you, ma'am, that, someone
Yeah.
will hear this and know that, they want to hear more from you. So I'm excited. And with that, we are going to close out the episode. Has been another episode of Style and Conversation. And until next Thursday, I'll see y'all soon. Bye. Hey, Style Crew, make sure you're keeping up with our podcast through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, as well as the Podcast Index. And if you'd like to view the podcast visually, check out my YouTube channel, Styled by Jessica Lauren. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at style_and conversation podcast.